Hi guys, welcome to COTURNIX Corner. My name's Terry, and in this video I'm going to show you how I built this stacked cage system, which I'm using as a replacement for my bachelor pad pen that I keep out back. This cage incorporates a sloped manure system on the top cage, which allows the manure to fall behind the cage, and then the bottom cage of manure just drops down on the ground. So let's head inside and I'll show you the materials that I use, and we'll go through the complete build process. Okay, so some of the material you're going to need to build this project is going to be 18 lengths of 2x2 furring strip. You're going to need 12 lengths of 1x2 furring strips. You're also going to need a piece of 1/2 inch plywood. The amount of plywood you're going to need is going to depend on how much of the cage you want to cover. I'm covering the top and my manure tray rack, and also some pieces on the back. So I bought 2 sheets of plywood, but you could probably get by with 1. Okay, other tools you're going to need is going to be a drill and slash screw gun, some 3-inch wood screws, some type of a water resistant wood glue, speed squares handy, and a tape measure. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to assemble the other side piece. This is one side of the cage, this being the front, and the front leg is 66 inches tall, and the back leg is 60 inches tall. These cross pieces here, the horizontal ones, are 22 inches, and the diagonal ones are 23 inches overall, with a 15-degree cut on both ends. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and lay out the other side, and I'll briefly show you what measurements you need for all these cross pieces and how I assemble them together. Using your tape measure, this is going to be on the long side. We're going to measure and mark where all of our boards are going to screw onto. So starting at the bottom of the leg, you're going to measure up 31 inches and make a mark. The next mark will be at 45 inches. The third mark will be 50.5 inches. And the last mark will be 46.5 inches. Now that's on the longer leg. On the back leg, or the shorter leg, they are going to measure 31 inches as your first mark, 39 inches is your second, 50.5 is your third mark, and 58.5 is your top mark. Now what you want to do is you want to take a speed square and you want to mark across the board with your speed square. But what you also want to do is on the top side of each mark is make an X. And the reason we're doing that is when you go to assemble it, you know that the X is the side of the line that your board screws to. So let me go ahead and move the camera a little bit closer, and I will show you how I pre-drill the holes and glue them up and screw the pieces in. Okay, so we've got both of our side pieces assembled. Now what we're going to do is put in our cross members, and those are 2x2s cut at 72 inches. You're going to want to also glue them. Grab the other end of that. Okay, so all these pieces, these cross pieces, are going to go flush with your horizontal pieces on each side. Okay, so we've got the basic framework all screwed together and glued up. Now what I like to do is use some leftover short pieces. I'll 45 each of the ends, and I'll just put them into each of the corners just to kind of help square everything up and hold everything steady. Okay, so what we're going to do now is start framing up our floor. What I use for the floor framing is 1 inch by 2 inch furring strips. What you're going to need for each floor is 2 of them at 72 inches long, and then for each floor, 4 of them 20.5 inches long. Let me just double check that measurement for you. Yeah, 20.5 inches long. That'll give you an overall length of 24 inches. So I've already got one of them made up. Let me go ahead and show you real quick just how I do that. It's not real hard. Basically, I'm just gluing up the pieces and using a brad nailer, nailing them together. I have 2 pieces, one for each end, but then I have another piece that goes in the centers, and those are each 24 inches from each end. So let me go ahead and glue this one up here. And you want to make sure that these 20.5 inch long pieces go in between your 2 longer pieces, so that you get the 24 inch spacing. Okay, so we've got the framework for the floors assembled. What we're going to do now is wheel everything outside. We'll get a couple coats of paint on it, and then we'll bring it back in and we'll start hanging some wire. Okay, so now that we've got everything painted up, I'm going to go ahead and hang the wire on the floor framing. The wire that I'm using today is a PVC coated 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch wire. We're going to be stapling the wire down with a pneumatic stapler with 5/8 inch legs on the staples. And basically all I do, once I've got the wire cut to fit, I'll use a regular flathead screwdriver to stick in the wire and just kind of pull it taut while I'm stapling it down. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll get these all stapled in, or stapled on the frames, and then we can go ahead and install the frames in the cage framework, and then we'll start working on the doors. Okay, and once you've got the wire stapled to the floor frames, you can go ahead and insert the floor frames into the caging frame. And what we'll do is we'll screw that down from the inside. I do not glue it into the framing, because if I ever need to pull these floors out, I want to be able to just unscrew them, take them out, repair, replace the wire, and then be able to reinstall them again. Okay, so the manure on the bottom cage is just going to drop directly down onto the ground, while the manure on the top cage is going to drop on a sloped surface here, which will allow the manure to be washed down behind the cage. What I did was cut up a couple sheets of plywood that I can fit up in here. And originally I was going to use my regular automotive drip pans to put on here and then just wash them down. But now that I think about it, I might just use some epoxy. I'll just epoxy these boards, and that way I can just come through, you know, a couple times a week and just hose them down, take a rake and rake the manure that falls behind the cage, rake it up onto the pile, and let the black soldier fly larva take care of it from there. So, okay, I think what we need to start working on next is getting the doors framed up. Well, they're already framed out, but cut out and hung, and then we can finish hanging the wire and the last little bit of plywood that I'm going to put on the back of the cage. Okay, so off camera I went ahead and framed up my doors. These vertical pieces for the door frame measure 12 5/8, and there is 24 inches from the inside to inside. I also went ahead and cut out 4 pieces that measure 24 inches, and that'll be the top and the bottom of the doors. They're actually just a little bit shy of 24 inches. I still need to cut out the centerpiece, and that's going to be 9.5 inches. So for each door, you're going to need 2 at just shy of 24 inches and 2 at 9.5 inches. And the 9.5 inch piece will go in between the 2 2x2s for the top and bottom. So let me go ahead and get them cut, and we'll come back, we'll assemble the door, and we'll go ahead and get them hung. Okay, so I went ahead and got the wire hung on both ends of the cages. I got some plywood that I hung on the back of each side of the cage. And the main reason for the plywood back there is my cage is going to be up against a wooden privacy fence anyway, so putting wire back there wouldn't have gained any benefits. I also got the doors framed out, wire hung on the doors, and the doors installed on the cages. And now I'm working on this manure slide out board that's underneath the top cage. Originally what I was going to do was just epoxy that board, and then I could just come along and spray it. But what I decided to do, I found this vinyl material up at Home Depot. It's like an 1/8 of an inch thick or so, and I think it's made for like in bathrooms for the walls, but the stuff is real easy to handle. You can cut it with scissors, and what I did was I cut a piece to fit up in here, and then I also picked up some what do they call it, drip edge for roofing, and I am hanging that basically upside down around this upper tray. And what that's going to do, it's got a little bit of a lip on it, and I'll bring you in and I'll show you that here in a second. So it's going to kind of hold the manure in to keep it from, you know, dripping down the side of the bottom cage. And basically all I did was laid that over top of the white vinyl material and ran a couple screws in the side of that. So I think that's going to work out real good. Also, that vinyl material, I had enough of it left over. After I mount my sheet of plywood on the roof, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put the vinyl material up there, and I've got another length of the drip edge. I'll run that around the top also. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff screwed on. I still have to hang the wire on the front of the cages, but we'll do that, and we'll pretty much be ready to take it outside and start putting some birds in it. Okay, so that pretty much completes this cage building video. All I've got to do is move my old bachelor pad cage out of the way, and I can move this one in there underneath the shade tree, and then I'm ready to bring some birds out. I haven't quite made up my mind yet if I'm going to install an automatic watering system on this one or not. I may do that in the future, but for now I'll probably just use the 1-gallon waterers and the shoebox type feeders in this cage. So guys, I want to thank you for joining me today. If this kind of content is what you're looking for, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. It helps me out, and you'll get notified of any new and upcoming videos. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next one.